Today, I want to welcome Laurie Saitz. She's the founder of Zen Rabbit and the Zen Leadership Program that helps leaders improve productivity and engagement through workplace well-being. Some of her stats that she shared with me is she's been able to increase productivity 120%, which is insane. That says for the same labor cost, you just got more than a new worker. You've doubled your workforce. 53% improvement in retention, 30% decrease in stress-related symptoms, 85% decrease in absenteeism, and 27% reduction in irritability. I have a few people I want you to talk to. And she also is the host of her own podcast that is fine is a four-letter word. Laurie, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I am excited to be here, Craig.
I'm excited too. I've been looking forward to this conversation because, you know, there's so many reasons why what you do is important. And if we just start with the most practical reasons, we have a birth rate that doesn't support our our current productivity. So we got to do some of these things that you're talking about. We need to be more productive with our time. Inflation is real, and if we don't want to, just have prices skyrocketing, we need to be more productive. But at the end of the day, I think that's really secondary. I just think one of the things that makes me sad, and I think this is part of what drives you, is you just hate to see people go through life all wound up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not necessary. I know people have been conditioned to believe that this is just how life is, but it's not.
So, which is interesting, it's not necessary.
No, no. I think people are going through life like hair on fire because they don't know any better. They've been led led to believe. They've been programmed by generations before them that believed that this is just how life is. So every generation learns what the generation before it taught them, right? So it becomes like, okay, this is just how it is, but they didn't learn the tools and techniques to not be that way. And
Mhm.
once people are even aware that it is possible to live a different way, then they can become interested in learning how to do that.
So, what are some examples of traps that people fall into that they inherited from prior generations? What does it look like in practice?
Okay, so this is a big one that you have to work hard to succeed. Success requires hard work. I don't believe that success certainly requires actions and some work, but it requires intentional action. It's not just let me be busy 24/7 and hustling all the time.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one. I hear that from people all the time that they were taught that in order to succeed, they have to work hard.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I think I struggle with that. My wife, were she here, would say I definitely struggle with that.
Uh-huh. I've struggled with it as well. I'm a firstborn Capricorn, like hard work, mountain goat, climbing everything, have to be perfect and, succeed at everything. I hate being a beginner because I want to just be good at it already. So, yeah, it's a matter of unlearning some of these things that we have learned in order to live a happier, more joyful life.
Yeah. So there's a few things that are mixed in, and I think some of it is cyclical. There's a book that anybody that knows me I reference frequently called Pendulum, talking about how we move through 80-year cycles, and every 80 years we get a little cantankerous. And I think most people would describe us as cantankerous right now.
Yes.
How do we unwind that?
It's each person's personal responsibility to do this. And because you're the only one who's in control of you. So you have to take the responsibility for managing your own thoughts and feelings and behaviors. And so when we talk about one of the tools that I teach people is how is some calming and grounding exercises, for example.
Hmm.
And so learning what those are and then implementing them, two different pieces here, right?
Yeah.
One, becoming aware of what they are, and then saying, okay, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do them consistently, not just one time and then say it doesn't work, is as a personal responsibility. Like how to calm your mind, how to calm the stress that you have in your life. There are ways to not feel stressed all the time, to be able to fall asleep faster, to have more kindness and feel more compassion so that you're not constantly getting pulled into arguments and
Hmm.
disagreements with people, whether it's, in your house, in your workplace, online, wherever it is that you feel compelled to jump in and argue. Calm it down. And so I think once each person says, I can do this myself, like I can't control what you do. If you choose to, use calming grounding exercises or to meditate or to practice gratitude or to work out, drink more water, I don't know. I don't have any control over what you're doing. I only have control over what I'm doing.
Have we reached a point where it's safe to say that picking a fight on social media isn't going to change anybody's mind?
Yes. Yes, we have.
I mean, because it's election season, and I know a guy. I think the world of him. I think he's a wonderful guy, and he puts these posts out like, "No, I'm just looking for input here," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's like the cheese telling the mouse, I'm just here for decoration. I'm here for you."
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think people they're looking for attention and they're looking to stir things up. Like, can I get in the middle of this? Because most people are conditioned for drama. This is the thing. Like, when I talk about helping people feel more calm and calm amidst the chaos, they don't know what that feels like. And when they do, if and when they do achieve some level of calm, feels very unfamiliar.
Hmm. That's interesting. So if I'm hearing you correctly, when it feels unfamiliar, are you saying that makes them insecure and it makes them a little bit nervous and they feel like
Mhm.
they have to disrupt that?
Yeah, exactly. It's I want to say it's uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar. So you would think that being in a constant state of stress and chaos would be uncomfortable. And for a lot of people, it is. They don't like it. They say they don't want it. You ask people, what do you want in your life? I just want to be happy. Well, they say that, but then they don't do the things that would get them there.
Mhm.
In part because it doesn't feel familiar. So it's uncomfortable. And what happens when something is uncomfortable? Everything's uncomfortable in the beginning. When you're learning to ride a bike, it's uncomfortable until you figure out how to do it. And then it's not it's perfectly comfortable.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a matter of giving calm a try or giving calm a chance, I guess.
One thing that keeps flashing through my head is my time in the Marines. And let me first say, thankfully, I've never fired a rifle in anger. I'm very thankful that I don't have to live with the ghosts that so many people do, or the
Mhm.
demons that so many people do. But through a series of exercises, it became very, very clear that should I be in that situation when all hell is breaking loose around me, my best chance of survival is to calm my mind, calm my breathing, and take that well aimed shot.
Yep.
And I feel like, even though life isn't a combat zone, sometimes it has that feeling.
Absolutely. It has that feeling. It has that feeling frequently for most people. That's how life feels to them is I live in a combat zone and my goal in life is to survive. It's not to thrive, it's not to necessarily feel good. They would like to be happy, but when it comes down to the day to day, I just need to get through this day so I can get up and do it again tomorrow.
And that just sounds miserable.
Yeah, it absolutely does sound miserable. And at the same time, you can, again, you can find ways to find calm. Like you were just saying, what you were trying to do is to find the calm so that you could respond instead of react impulsively. Because when you're reacting from that reptilian part of your brain, which is where most people are operating from typically, you make mistakes. You're not focused. It takes you longer to get through tasks and chores and
Yeah.
projects. And you're probably making mistakes. You're going to have to go back and do it again. You know, if you're going to go with the same analogy, you're going to miss the shot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can tell you in my, I did various drills and what have you. I did miss the shot until I slowed down, tuned out the chaos, breathed, and just took that well-aimed shot.
Yeah. That's what you have to do. But you have to learn how to do that, right? Like you didn't just walk into the Marines and go, I'm here. I know how to shoot totally calm. They trained you.
Yeah. 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 And yeah. And there is a lot of breathing. A lot of marksmanship is breathing.
Yes.
Now, how about what you do? How much of what you do is about breathing?
A lot of it is about breathing. Well, I always start with that because presumably everybody who's listening is breathing, but they are probably breathing very shallowly, which is what happens when people are feeling stressed. Is they're breathing, but they're breathing from the upper part of their chest, and it's very shallow breaths. Like, I mean, it still sustains you, it keeps you alive, but learning to breathe all the way down into your abdomen. And this is one of the exercises that I teach when I'm doing workshops is let's just take a moment, and you can do it whether you're walking into a meeting or you're walking into a situation that you expect might be stressful, or you're walking out of a situation where you're like, oh, that didn't go well. At any time to just take a really deep breath in all the way down to your abdomen. Maybe put your hand on your chest and your abdomen, one hand on chest, one hand on and feel that air going all the way down into your abdomen. When you look at how babies breathe, that's how they naturally breathe, is all the way down to their abdomen, not just in their chest. And
Mm-hmm.
then so sucking in all this air, breathing in as much as you can, and then just letting it go. And when you do that, when you're letting it go, letting your neck relax and your shoulders relax and your arms, your hands, just like let everything relax as you release that breath. And do that for a few times. Let's say 60 seconds, 90 seconds. Not that much time. It doesn't require a long commitment here. Again, it's very easy, and it's also easy to not do.
And for the record, you're giving me flashbacks to the rehab hospital. 3 years ago, I was in a rehab hospital, and my lung capacity was less than a third of what it is right now. And if I walked, I was learning how to walk again, and if I walked 10 feet, I would start hyperventilating. I would do those shallow breaths,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, "No, focus." And they're telling me all this stuff. I'm like, come closer so I can take my scrawny little atrophied arm and smack you with it. It's hard.
It
I
is
mean,
hard.
and so that's I think that's one of the challenges is, you know, people are like, Lori, I hear what you're saying. I can't. I can't.
You can't or you don't want to because it's unfamiliar. Because most people are not having the challenge that you were having where it was a physical challenge to do it. And yet you still did it. Even though you
Yeah.
were physically challenged to do it and you didn't want to, you still did because you needed it for your recovery.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't ha- have are you familiar with David Goggins?
I'm not.
Okay, I don't even know how to describe him because he's like a Superman. And what was the book? Now I have to look up the name of the book that he wrote, but he has pushed himself beyond what most people would consider physical human limits and set an example. It's like when Roger Bannister ran the 4-minute mile. Everybody said it's impossible. It can't be done until he did it. And then a whole bunch of other people shortly afterwards did it too.
Hmm.
It's not everything and anything is possible. We just set these limits on ourselves and say, I can't. It's impossible. It's not. Or maybe you can do it, but I can't. How badly do you want the calm? How badly
Mm,
do you want to succeed in whatever it is you're looking to accomplish?
yeah. Yeah. And boy, isn't that the case for so many things? I think about, I think about Michael Jordan. One of the stories I've heard about him told by one of his coaches when he was in the playing baseball. He said, the game would end and all the players would go out drinking. Michael would show up at the batting cage and say, I need to work on batting while everybody else is. It's, the thing that made him the phenomenal athlete that he was he would do that little extra that
Yep.
nobody else would. And that's what I'm hearing you say is you can do this and you can stand out. You can be different. You can stand above everyone else if you just take on this one thing.
Right, right. Jerry Rice would do the same thing, be out there on the field when everybody else was gone. And before I forget, David Goggins' book is called Can't Hurt Me. He was a Navy SEAL and an ultra marathon runner, ultra distance cyclist, all this. Anyway, just to close that loop. Yeah, we're not asking you to stay on the practice field for an extra 3 hours. We're asking, I'm recommending, I'm encouraging you. I'm not even asking, I'm just inviting you to breathe more deeply so that you can fully oxygenate your brain and your blood, so that you can be more focused, so that you can feel better physically and mentally.
So how do we now I have the benefit of having very high dollar training in the rehab hospital where, they actually had me put my hand on my gut
Uh-huh.
and take me through some exercises to breathe. What's the do it at home version of this? Where do people learn how to do this?
We just did it. I mean, put your hand on your abdomen and put your other hand, your third hand, your another hand on your chest and feel yourself breathing in really deeply. If you want to take it one little notch up, close your eyes because then you're blocking out some of the distractions that you have. But just focus on your breathing for 60 to 90 seconds. Just close your eyes and focus on breathing in really deeply and holding it for 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and then letting it go. And that's it. That's the practice. Like I know people say to me all the time, it can't be that easy. Where we said before we started recording, like they want 17 steps so they can skip 3 of them and then go, yeah, it didn't work. But
Yeah.
there are no other steps. That's the very beginning, most basic thing you can do. And then you can move into other calming, grounding exercises. For example, going outside and standing in the grass, like putting your feet in the grass. If you could take your shoes off and do it, and fire ants aren't going to bite you, um, and grounding yourself. There's a lot of research behind doing this too. Just this physical thing of putting your feet in the grass, in the ground, and And then I'll take it a step further and say, imagine that you're a tree with a really deep roots all the way into the center of the earth, and that nothing can blow you over. Nothing can push you down. Like you are grounded and rooted. It helps. It helps with that staying calm no matter what chaos is swirling around you. You can't change what's happening around you. You can
Mm,
change how you respond to it.
wow. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's so profound. You can't change what's happening around you. You can change how you respond.
Yeah,
Uh,
and the funny thing is then I say you can't change what's happening around you, but you actually if you change how you respond to it, you are somewhat influencing what is happening around you because If you respond in a calm way, the people around you will pick up on that energy, and things will calm down. If you respond hair on fire, we got to, th- everything's in flames, the people around you will respond accordingly. So you actually can influence, but it doesn't necessarily, like you're not going to change y- you're not going to change the outcome of some things, but you're going to change the energy around it.
Yeah. Well, and for leaders, that's such an important lesson, that because whoever you're leading, and I would say that to some degree, everybody's a leader. Not maybe they're not
Mhm.
a great leader, but people are looking to you for clues on how they should respond, especially if you're in a leadership role.
Yes.
And if you're showing chaos, that chaos is going to be amplified through your team.
100%. When you mentioned, I have a program called Zen Leadership, and part of Zen Leadership is who being somebody that people want to support, not just follow. It's not follow the leader. I mean, there is that phrase, but it's being somebody that people want to support. And how do you show up every day? Who are you being, and how are you being? Because that is setting the tone for your leadership.
Yeah. Yeah. There was something you said, I want to pivot a little bit. There was something you said in the green room, and I didn't react to it because I really wanted to talk about it here. And it's the whole concept of grateful.
Mm.
What does you said that one of the things you help people do is learn how to become more naturally grateful. Why should they care?
Mhm. Aside from it's a human, it makes you more human and compassionate. From a business standpoint, there's been a lot of research on this, that it makes you more productive. Grateful people have been shown to be 50% more productive. There have been studies on people who work for leaders who are more grateful than leaders who are more grateful. Their team members are willing to work harder for them. They are willing to stay longer for a leader who is grateful and who expresses that gratitude. So, from a business perspective, bringing gratitude into your business is profitable. It's more profitable,
Mm,
and it doesn't cost anything. You're not adding to the bottom. You're not adding to the expenses by being grateful. We're not saying buy everybody, $50,000 cars to say thank you to them. We're saying it could be as simple as starting a meeting with, again, this is a great tool or a great technique for helping people, one, become grounded, but second, to feel more grateful. Start a meeting by asking people what's good right now. What's going on that's good right now? It helps refocus attention away from all of the complaining and criticizing that happens on a regular basis into, oh, let me transfer my thoughts to something that is good that's happening. And it changes the energy. I just heard about this study that when you can get yourself into a grateful state, it changes the energy of the people around you. Again, like we were just talking about, it changes the energy in the room. It can change the energy of people not even in the room.
yeah.
Really, really interesting, powerful, not commonly, like people, "Oh, how does it change energy?" Well, I mean, we could go down a different rabbit hole of we are all energetic beings. We're made of energy. So when energy here changes, it can change energy over here. But the bottom line is that when you practice gratitude, well, let's say catching people doing something right instead of always, hey, you did that wrong. Next time, remember to do it this way. Catching people doing things right, that is, and telling them boosts their morale, makes them feel good about being part of the team. Again, makes them want to work harder and be more engaged and be more supportive of what the mission is.
You know, It's really interesting because I recently watched an interview with Steve Wynn, the Wynn
Mhm.
Resort, Encore Resort. And for those that don't know, Steve Wynn's the guy who basically reinvented Las Vegas into the town that it is today. And it began when he built the Mirage. It was the first hotel that's, the massive resort. And the question that was asked was, Steve, how do you, as your empire grows, how are you able to keep the same standard of excellence? And he said, look, I can't manage these people. It's too big. My job is to manage the culture. And he gave an example of something that happened at a Wynn resort. There was, so I think at the Wynn, somebody was checking in the room and they had a bellhop take the luggage up, and they had trained the bell staff that before you leave the room, ask the question, have we forgotten anything? And so this bellhop asks, have we forgotten anything? And it's a husband and wife, and the wife starts freaking out. And she's like, oh my goodness, I forgot my makeup bag. And it has my diabetes medicine in it. And and she said, I left it, one left down the lobby. She had left it back in LA.
Mm.
And he said, and so this bellhop, with nobody's permission, said, well, ma'am, it's at your house in LA. And she said, yes. Is there someone at your house that would give it? I have a cousin that lives in LA. Would you be able to tell whoever's at your house to give it to my cousin? She said, sure. He said, ma'am, if you'll do that, we will make sure. When do you need this medicine by? She said, absolutely by breakfast. He said, ma'am, we will have it by breakfast. And so she said, oh, thank you so much. And she made the call. I think it was her, nanny or somebody that was back there. And so he went downstairs, went to his boss, and he said, hey, I just made this big promise. I have some ideas on how to fill it. One is that I just drive back to LA. I won't be able to work my shift. I'm going to drive back to LA, pick up her bag, and then bring it back. And his boss, again, without asking permission, said, go do it. Comes back, delivers the medicine before breakfast. They have a delightful experience. He's telling the story in the shift change, and the manager knew to press a certain button on the phone, and immediately there was a film crew there. The film crew filmed this whole testimony of what happened, and but before the end of the day, they had it running on the employees' TVs in the employees' break rooms of this wonderful thing that he did. And it's that giving, that gracious spirit where you can have it built into an organization all the way down to where people feel that empowerment is transformative.
Yeah. Yeah. And to do that, I mean, there may have been some expense involved, obviously, in the driving and but giving people the freedom to make decisions is it is transformative. And so many organizations want to micromanage how their people are working. Giving them the freedom like that, it makes them feel valued. And they are. I mean, he's bringing a solution that nobody else might have come up with.
Yeah. Yeah. And what did it cost Wynn Resorts? A little bit of lost productivity of him during his shift. And maybe they threw 50 or $100 of gas money at him. But he felt like a hero because he's being celebrated on the TVs. His coworkers are watching, oh, this is how you get celebrated at work.
Yeah. Yeah. And how much longer is he going to stay with that organization because of that, too? So
Yeah.
looking at retention.
Yeah. There's something else I think of when I think of gratitude. There's a lady by the name of Joellen Demetrius, and her claim to fame is she picked the O.J. Simpson jury. And she said something, she wrote a book, and she said that the degree of someone's satisfaction with life tells me more than I could learn from any other number of traits. And she went on to say that people that have fallen short, they tend to have a victim mentality. They can be quick to place blame on others, may be bitter, angry, negative, pessimistic, and vengeful.
Mm.
But that just ties into when you said gratitude earlier, that's where my mind went.
Mhm.
It's such a powerful force. She used that to pick the 12 people in the world that thought OJ was innocent.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, some of the other things that gratitude can do is it strengthens the neural pathways in your brain. It releases the feel good chemicals of dopamine and serotonin, which, because of that, can help reduce physical pain and improve
Mm,
your physical health. It helps with sleep quality. How many people do you talk to who are like, I can't sleep, or my sleep sucks, or I only got 3 hours of sleep last night? Becoming grateful helps you sleep better, reduces cortisol, which is that stress hormone, which when you have a ton of cortisol running through your body because you're so stressed all the time, chronic stress, it creates inflammation in the body, and inflammation in the body is, and I'm not a doctor, just saying, that is what fuels most dis-ease in the body. So feeling more grateful can help every improve your health in every single way. So then therefore it increases the effectiveness of your immune system, and it actually changes the way you see the world, changes the way you are. So because it changes the way you are, it changes the way you see the world. It's
yeah.
really powerful.
Yeah. So what's an exercise somebody could do to practice gratitude every day?
Great question. I will give you one of my favorite exercises.
Okay.
It's called But I'm Grateful For. All right. So, is there something that happened, Craig, in the past, I don't know, 24, 72 hours that you were just like, I can't believe it, and I started complaining about?
I had a podcast guest that didn't show up.
Oof.
And so, for those that aren't listening, or those who are listening, Lori and I had a miscommunication. I saw something in the waiting room. I thought it was her AI. And I started thinking, oh, geez, 2 days in a row, I had a guest not show up. And so, yeah, I was hurt yesterday, and then I started reliving those emotions today.
Okay. So the complaint is a guest didn't show up. And but I'm grateful for what?
I'm grateful for our conversation we're having now because this
There
is
you go.
delightful.
Okay. So this is the exercise. The next time or anytime you catch yourself complaining or criticizing about anything, you catch yourself, and I say when because you will, we're human, but I'm grateful for. But I'm grateful for. Whatever it is, it doesn't even have to be related. The guest didn't show up. I'm angry. I'm frustrated, whatever. But I'm grateful I have an awesome cup of coffee, or I'm having dinner with friends tonight. Whatever it is, what you're doing is you're changing the focus. And the reason we're using the word but is because but negates that whole first part of the sentence.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to do, is take the focus off of the complaint and put it on the gratitude. And the more you practice this exercise, the more naturally grateful you become. And the quicker you will go from, of course, you're still going to recognize, oh, somebody didn't show up. That screws up my schedule and annoys me. But I'm grateful. And you will be living much more of your life in the gratitude part of things.
That is such sound advice. And, I wish we could go on because I know you have more nuggets like that. But Lori, this has been delightful. And I really feel like people need to reach out to you. I mean, one, because you'll just live a happier, more fulfilled life if you can adopt these things. But again, I'm looking at the statistic. You increased productivity 120%. That's like doubling your workforce for the same payroll without having to do double the number of performance reviews every year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we just talked about how gratitude, being grateful, increases productivity by 50%. So this is how you do it.
So how do people reach you?
My website, my company is Zen Rabbit. So my website is zenrabbit.com. And you can reach out to me there. You can find my links to my socials. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, but you can find me. Yeah, zenrabbit.com has the links to all the socials.
Well, Lori Saitz, Bringing the Heat, How to Be Calm. in a cantankerous society. That may be the title of this show.
I like it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.